Hello, everyone.
Hello, Doctor.
Hi, Doctor.
Hi, you can hear me?
Yes, Doctor.
Good. All the presenters here?
Yes, we are
I
here,
think,
Doctor.
if possible, everybody can switch on their videos. I think we'll have that as a requirement for the next class. But for this class, I think get used to it. Switch on your videos. There's nothing to be. I suppose it is just like any other class. All right.
Sorry, Doctor. I need the approval to consent to upload share the screen.
Oh, okay. Is it possible now?
Yeah, okay already.
Let's see how many people are here. 28. That's a bit more than half the class. Just bear with me for a while. Ay, Oh, okay. Zisheng himself is presenting, right? That's good. We have 29 people. All right, I think you want to start, might as well start now. So our topic today is about OD programs, interventions, and evaluations. This is almost towards the end already, I think. After this, we have one about the trends, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then that'll be it. So I think afterwards we also have to discuss whether we want to have any, that there are groups and there are individuals. So we may open it up for presentations, because then those who present will be able to get feedback. I think that's good also for those people who are doing their assignments. All right. So, Zisheng,
Yeah.
you're ready? Go ahead.
Yeah. The first presenter from my group is Shamila. So I'll invite Shamila to do the presentation.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay, I'm going to talk about developing the OD program. Next slide. Okay. So basically, OD program is also referred as change program, and change often represent a major alteration of the organizational process. That means what it means is a systematic analysis of problems, and often represent major alteration of organizational process. And it is a long-term plan and sustained effort. So who is usually involved in OD program? So the OD program may be a part of the human resource development department, or it can be in a separate department. And in some cases, the OD program reports directly to the CEO or president. So, and then how it is done. So many OD programs, they use action research model, which involves collecting information about the organization, feeding this information back to the client system, and developing and implementing action programs to improve system performance. So the success of the OD program depends on the sustaining the OD programs requires commitment and leadership as organizational relationships changes. Next slide. Okay. All right, the goals and values of OD program. The purpose of OD program is to increase organizational effectiveness by the application of OD values and techniques. OD practitioners must consider the ethical consequences of various actions, okay, and develop a set of ethical standards to guide them when competing interests collide. Basically, the two goals of OD programs are to improve the functioning of individuals, team, and the total organization. Number two, to impart the necessary skills and knowledge that will enable organization members continuously to improve their functioning on their own. So in OD program, a set of goals or purposes is identified, and a course of action is undertaken involving the commitment of organization members to organization improvement. An OD program usually aim at the three basic organizational dimensions that affect performance, and that will be managerial effectiveness, managerial efficiency, and motivational climate. Okay, next. Managerial effectiveness, it refers to the accomplishments of specific organizational goals and objectives, or it means doing the right thing. If organizations are using their resources to attain long-term goals, the managers are being effective. The closer an organization comes to achieving its strategic goals, the more effective the organization is. Managerial efficiency refers to the ratio of outputs, that means the results, to the inputs, that means the resources, or doing the things right. The higher this proportion, the more efficient the manager, and when managers are able to minimize the cost of the resources used to attain performance, they are managing efficiently. An organization may be efficient but not effective, or vice versa. And motivational climate consists of set of employee attitudes, morale, that influence the level of performance. So basically the goal of OD is to improve and maximize all three dimensions. That means the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the motivational climate. So by doing this, the organization is not only doing the right thing, but it is doing it well. Next. So the OD program steps, like I said before, usually many organizations, they use the action research model. So the first step is awareness of the need for change. So before a program change can be implemented, the organization must anticipate the need of change, and they must identify a gap between the current situation and the desired condition. Number two is practitioner-client relationship. That means the development of the practitioner-client relationship is an important determinant of the probable success or failure of an OD program. Number three is the diagnostic phase. It is to determine the exact problem that needs solution, to identify the forces causing the situation, and to provide a basis for selecting effective change strategies and techniques. So OD program is designed based on data analyzation to identify problem areas, a weak, inaccurate, or faulty diagnosis that can lead to a costly or ineffective change program. Action plans, strategies, and techniques, that will be the number 4. So that is what we call interventions. That means an array of planned activities participated in by both the practitioner and the client. And the last one is, number 5 is self-renewal, monitor and stabilize. That means each stage of the OD program, it needs to be monitored to gain feedback on member reaction to the change efforts. And the last but not least is the continuous improvement. As one OD program stabilizes, the need for the practitioner should decrease. So if the client moves towards independence and evidences a self-renewal capacity, the gradual termination of the practitioner-client system relationship is easily accomplished. Next slide. However, we have certain issues that we need to consider in OD programs. Okay, the first issue is power. Whether or not the practitioner is able to deal effectively with power and the use of the power. Actually, OD is not a political or power type of intervention. But given the political nature of the organization decision making, the OD practitioner must be aware of the politics and use the problem solving approach that is compatible with power-oriented situations. The other issues that we need to look at is the compatibility of the values. Success of the OD program is very dependent upon the fit of the OD values and the organizational values. So key issues to be resolved between the OD practitioner and the client concerns the value orientations to each party. The other issues that we can see in OD program is the imposed change. That means the decision to initiate an OD program is usually made by the top management group. So yet it is likely to affect all the members and part of the organization. Lower level members may or may not have the real choice regarding their participation in the program. Number 4, the fourth issue will be the how we are going to determine the priority of the goals. So which goals of the OD program is likely to be given the precedence. So it then becomes necessary to decide how much emphasis, if any, to put on each goal. So are the organizational or individual goals to take precedence, and OD practitioners, they play a role to develop the balanced intervention.
Okay, thank you, Shamila. So I will continue with the second part, which is the role and style of OD practitioners and intervention. Okay, first of all, I will touch about OD practitioners. So what is who are OD practitioners, they are the persons leading or guiding the process of change in an organization. So for OD practitioners, they can be divided into external and internal practitioners. So external practitioners are someone that is not previously associated to client system. For example, maybe the consultant, the OD consultant that the organization hired from outside to provide advice on OD intervention to the organization. So this is external practitioners. Whereas for internal OD practitioners is a member of the organization who initiates change in his or her work group. So these internal practitioners are the HR staff in that organization itself that involves in leading the OD intervention process in the organization. So both external and internal practitioners, they have their advantages and disadvantages. So for external practitioners, the advantages is they have their own experience when they conduct this or giving any consultancy advice in other organizations. So they have the experience. They can use this experience and also best practice from other organizations to practice in that organization. So this is the advantage of having the external OD practitioners. Whereas for internal practitioners, the advantage is they know well about their organizational culture. So it will be easier for the internal practitioners to evaluate to see what type of OD intervention that are suitable for their organization. So for disadvantages, the external practitioners, they are the person who are outside of the organization, so they might not have a knowledge on the vision, mission, or the organizational culture itself in the organization, because they are the people from outside, so they might not know the internal culture of the organization. So when they provide advice or consultancy, so this may not fit that organization. And the disadvantages of internal practitioners is maybe because internal practitioners, they are internal staff of an organization. So they might have some conflict of interest, or they might be, they are not there to voice out their opinions in the OD intervention process. Maybe they are scared of their bosses, or they are not there to voice out their opinions. So these are the advantages of the internal OD practitioners. So the most effective approach for this OD intervention is external internal practitioner team. So that means the OD practitioners teams should consist of a mixture of external and internal practitioner to help each other in carrying out this intervention process. So this is the most effective approach. And at the same time, this combination of team, whereby it consists of internal and external, a practitioner will provide the integration of abilities, skills, and resources. Because as we know, everybody has their own expertise, field of expertise. So for example, this OD practitioner might be expert in maybe finance and account, and maybe another OD practitioner might have the expertise in other sectors, maybe about HR or organizational structure. So by having a mixture of external and internal practitioner, and we have an integration of abilities, skill, and resources to make sure this intervention process can be done properly. Okay, next. Same as leadership, OD practitioner also have their own styles. So for these OD practitioner styles, we can categorize it in terms of two criteria, which is first criteria is about accomplishing goals, and the second criteria is the member satisfaction. So these are the two criteria that can categorize them into 5 categories. So first category is the stabilizer, whereby for this type of OD practitioner style stabilizer, the goal is neither effectiveness nor participant satisfaction. So maybe more to stabilize the current situation. And the second type of practitioner styles is a cheerleader style, whereby they emphasize on satisfaction of organization members. That means the emphasis is on the second criteria, which is the member satisfaction. Okay, the third one is the analyzer practitioner style, whereby emphasize on efficiency, little on member satisfaction. So that means their focus are more on the first type, which is accomplishing goals and enhance efficiency. So number 4 is the persuader type. Okay, persuader type. Focus on both dimension, yet optimizes neither. So these are the persuader type. And number 5th type is the pathfinder type, whereby both high degree of efficiency and member satisfaction. That means the emphasis on both criteria, which is at the same time, they want to accomplish goals, and at the same time also satisfy the members of the organization. So this is the last type of practitioner, pathfinder practitioner styles. Okay, the intervention process. Okay, first, before the intervention process, we have to look at the readiness of the organization for OD. So before the intervention process can be done, first have to make sure the members of the organization are well aware of the reason why they need this organizational change, and everybody from top management to the bottom to the supporting staff are ready to embrace this intervention process. Okay, the definition of intervention refers to planned activities involving practitioner and client to improve the effectiveness of the process. Okay, in order for the effective intervention process, first, the OD practitioner need to identifying the client. They need to understand the client, the business of the organization, who are the people working there, and what is the issues that they face that they need intervention. So identifying the client is a very important step in intervention process. So the OD practitioner roles in the intervention is they have to decide when. That means when this intervention process should start, how to intervene, meaning that how to carry out this intervention process, and with whom to intervene. That means they have to know who is the target group then that they need to intervene in order to improve the system, the process, the work process of the organization. So that means they have to focus on when, how, and whom. Okay, in order for the intervention process to occur smoothly, the OD practitioner should possess some skills. Okay, for example, such as leadership. So the OD practitioner should have a very strong leadership skill, whereby he or she can influence and lead the team in order to carry out this intervention process. And another skill is project management, because for this intervention process, usually it involves a group of people, a group of team. So project management skill is very important. And number 3, the skill is communication skill. Because for the intervention process to occur successfully, the information whereby why we need this intervention, how are we going to carry out this intervention process, all this information have to be communicated effectively to all the members in the organization in order to ensure success of this intervention process. And while the intervention process is ongoing, there must be some problem arising from time to time. So problem solving skill is another important skill for the OD practitioners to have this problem solving skill. And of course, for this intervention process, it is about dealing with people in an organization. So interpersonal skills and also the personal skill itself is very important. That means how the OD practitioner interact with the members of the organization, whereby the intervention process occur, and also the skill, the personal skill inside the OD practitioner itself, the personal character that can help to carry out this intervention process. Okay, next I will talk about the practitioner-client relationship. Okay, a system of interacting elements. So that means we have internal, external practitioner interact with each other in a harmonious and cooperative manner. And client sponsor, that means which category of client that is providing support for this OD process. And also client target system. Client target system referring to a group of clients which are involved in this OD process. So before this OD process can occur, we have to identify this client target system. Okay, secondly is to developing a trust relationship. Okay, the OD practitioner must be able to gain the trust from the client before they can successfully carry out this OD intervention process. The client must have trust towards the practitioner that the OD practitioners, the existence of this OD practitioner can help their organization to improve their efficiency and bring a positive impact to the organization. So the trust between two sides is very important. And thirdly, creating a climate for change. So before the OD process can occur, most importantly, the OD practitioner and so the client have to create a climate for change. That means the client have to be aware of why they need this change, why they need this intervention process. So before that, they have to get ready, and with the readiness, then they could embrace this change. And lastly, I would like to share about some of the red flags in practitioner-client relationship. Okay, the level of commitment to change. Sometimes in this intervention process, the factors that determine whether it can be successful or not, highly dependable on this level of commitment to change. So the commitment should come from the top management until the supporting group, whereby all layers of staff have to be fully committed to this intervention process so that the process can occur smoothly. And secondly is the degree of leverage or power to influence change. Okay, in order to influence change, the key person that has the power to influence the change is usually the top management. So if the OD practitioner can leverage or influence or convince the top management that the change is really crucial in bringing a positive change or impact to the organization, then the top management will influence or give direction to the subordinates, and this will help the OD practitioner to carry out this intervention process. And thirdly, the third red flag that I would like to share is the client's manipulative use of the practitioner. Sometimes, maybe the client might be unsatisfied with some of the matters in the organization. So they will use this opportunity to bring in the OD practitioner and some sort like use them and manipulate them to create the change for their own personal interests. So these are some of the red flags in a practitioner-client relationship. Okay, that's all presentation from me. So I would like to invite Carly Selvi to continue for the OD intervention strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Now I'll be continuing with OD intervention and strategies. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, OD intervention and strategy. Next slide, please, Chair.
Okay.
Okay, OD is an effort, planned organization, and managed from the top to increase the organization effectiveness and health through the planned interventions in the organization's process using behavioral science knowledge. OD is a planned system of change. OD intervention is a set of sequence planned actions or events intended to help an organization to increase its effectiveness, purposely disrupt the status quo. They are deliberate attempts to change an organization or subunit toward a different and more effective state. OD strategy is a plan for integrating different, back to the previous slide. Okay, OD strategy is a
This one.
Yes, this one.
Okay.
Okay, OD strategy is a plan for integrating different activities to accomplish the objective. And the last one is organizational change is a starting point for setting change program, is a definition of the total change strategy. Next slide. Okay, there is a three basic strategies to change, which is structural strategies, technological strategies, and also behavioral strategies. Structural strategies is a changes that relate elements of organization to one another, includes removing or adding layers to the hierarchy. The changes can involve decentralization and also centralization. The next is technological strategies. Technological strategies is changes in machinery, methods, automation, and also job design. It changes help companies become more productive. And finally, behavioral strategies. It emphasizes better utilization of human resources by improving morale, motivation, commitment of members. Audit traditionally associated with behavioral strategies. Next. This is the integrated approach to change. Organization development strategies are the three strategies, which is behavioral, structural, and also technical. From the behavioral strategy to align employee attitudes and values, it will create the new behaviors and also improve quality and performance. The structural strategy to align structure and design, it will build a new relationship and also will improve the quality and the performance. The last one is technical strategy, which is to align processes and technologies. It will produce the new process and will improve the quality and the performance. Next. Okay, this is the organizational iceberg approach to OD. There is two parts. The top of the iceberg is visible norms and behaviors, which is formal aspect. And the bottom of the iceberg is invisible culture, values, and assumption, which is behavioral aspect. For the formal aspect, there is financial resources, formal goals, surface competencies and skills, technology, physical facilities, customers, organization design, and also rules and regulation. For the behavioral aspect, there is attitudes, communication patterns, informal team processes, personality, conflict, political behavioral, and also underlying competencies and skills. The top part is the visible norms and behaviors, and the bottom part is the invisible culture, values, and assumptions. Next. Okay, this is the stream analysis chart. This chart is used in planning. It also helps in organization plan interventions. It provides graphical views of changes and also allows to be plotted progress. Next. Okay, selecting an OD intervention. Practitioner and client consider potential results of techniques, potential implementation of technique, including cost versus benefit, and potential acceptance of technique. Next. Okay, now I'll be explaining on OD techniques and also intervention techniques. There is 4 major OD intervention techniques, which is individual or interpersonal level, team or group level, intergroup level, and also total organization system level. Next. This is the table which explains the type of intervention and also the basic strategies to the change. Okay, for the individual, the basic strategy to change is behavioral, which is employee empowerment, process interventions, laboratory learning, career planning, managerial grade, stress management, biofeedback, management by objective, and also goal setting. For the structural, employee empowerment, job enrichment, stress management, management by objective. And for the technological strategies, employee empowerment, and also job design. Same goes to team, intergroup, and also total organization system. That's all from me now. Now I'll pass to Sharin.
Yeah, back. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, Doctor and fellow friends. I will continue the presentation with the OD evaluation. Next. As you can see, here are some of the definitions of OD evaluation by the scholars. In general, the OD evaluation is a process that provides a value-driven process consisting of collecting and evaluating information to identify the effectiveness of implementation of OD interventions. Next. There are 8 common reasons why we have to conduct OD evaluation. First, it is because we have to measure the effectiveness of the process, impact and outcome of the program. Second reason is to identify the best practices that have been implemented in the organization. Number 3 is to identify areas of improvement. This is an ongoing assessment starting from the designing stage up to the implementation level. Next, number 4 is we conduct evaluation because we want to measure the impact on economic factors or human impact factors. Number 5, because of the accountability, organization is accountable to its stakeholders. Through evaluation, organization will report back to their stakeholders. The stakeholders need to know whether their investment or effort are worth it or not. Number 6, promotion and advocacy. Evaluation is needed because it informs the policymakers and program sponsors about the achievement of the program. Number 7, evaluation is also a method of appraisal that provides performance information to make better operational decisions. And the last one, we conduct evaluation because we want to search for opportunities. It identifies the unmet need and allows for the development of new efforts to serve those needs. Next. As far as OD evaluation is concerned, evaluation provides feedback to practitioners and organization members about the progress and impact of interventions. OD practitioners just make choices about how to design the evaluation to achieve valid results. There are 2 things that OD practitioners need to concern when conducting evaluation to achieve valid result. First is the internal validity, and the second is external validity. Internal validity is the key issues. It is about how to design the assessment to show whether the interventions did in fact produce the observed results, while the external validity is the secondary questions on whether the intervention would work similarly in other situations. Next, I will share about the 2 key aspects of effective evaluation. The first one is measurement. The second is research design. Next slide, please. This is the first key aspect of effective evaluation. There are 2, firstly, we look into the measurement aspect. There are 2 important elements in measurement aspect. First is we have to design a good measures. A good measures specifies the empirical data needed, how they will be collected, and the most important is how they will be converted from data to information. Next is selecting appropriate variables. This element mentioned that the variables measured in OD evaluation should derive from the theory or conceptual model underlying the intervention. In selecting appropriate variables, we have to make sure that the variables are reliable and valid. The reliability and validity of the variables are important so that the measurement will be accurate and the results or findings can be trusted. Next slide. The second aspect of effective evaluation is research design. There are 3 ways in designing evaluation. Number 1 is longitudinal measurement. This involves measuring results repeatedly over relatively long time periods. Ideally, the data collection should start before the change program is implemented and continue for a period considered reasonable for producing expected results. Number 2 is comparison unit. It is also always desirable to compare results in the intervention situations with those in another situation where no such change has taken place. Although it is never possible to get a matching group identical to the intervention group, most organizations include a number of similar work units that can be used for comparison purposes. Number 3 is statistical analysis. Whenever possible, statistical methods should be used to rule out the possibility that the results are caused by random error or chance. Various statistical techniques are applicable to quasi-experimental designs, and OD practitioners should apply these methods or seek help from those who can apply them, so they can have assistance from outside the organization. Next slide, types of evaluation. In general, there are two types of evaluation, the formative and the summative. For the formative evaluation is divided into three types. There are evaluation of process, impact, and outcome. Formative evaluation is to foster development and improvement within an ongoing activity, while the summative evaluation refers to the assessment that focuses on the outcome or results. It is used to assess whether the result of the object being evaluated met the desired goals. Next slide, please. This is the three types of change in organization that usually been evaluated. We have alpha change, beta change, and gamma change. Alpha change, in general, it is absolute quantitative change. It shows movement along the stable dimensions of change, and it shows an increase after a job enrichment program or interventions. The beta change results from the respondent's subjective recalibration of the measurement scale. If beta change is involved, it can explain this apparent failure of the intervention to increase discretion. The last one, gamma change. Gamma change results from the respondent reconceptualization of the measured variable. For example, the presence of gamma change would make it difficult to compare measures of employee discretion taken before and after job enrichment program. Next slide. This is the evaluation process. There are 6 steps in the evaluation process. The first one is evaluation process started with assigning the evaluation coordinator, then self-review guideline. The guideline is for the agency to review its own operations. Number 3, with the guidelines provided, the agency will have to do the self-evaluation and self-assessment. Number 4, it's team review. A multidisciplinary team of consultants who use the evaluation manual will review the agency operations. Number 5 is feedback session. During the feedback session, the team will present the evaluation finding before the written report in order to give the agency an opportunity to react to the evaluation. And the last stage is the presentation of the final report to the agency. This is to provide the agency an opportunity for public review. Next slide. These are some examples of evaluation method. We have monitoring and feedback system, member satisfactory survey, behavioral survey, process and outcome measures, goal attainment, scaling, or interview. As mentioned earlier, mixed method and combination of evaluation method can be used to collect more information and gather information from different sources. Method use also depends on type of evaluation and the evaluation purposes. Next slide. These are the sample of evaluation questions. In general, the question must be relate to the objective and purpose of the evaluation. Next. Here are some of the information that usually include in the evaluation report. We have member satisfaction analysis, goals achievement, performance outcomes, identification of problems, proposal of problem solutions, and level of members interaction. However, there are other things also that usually include in the reports, such as current situation or current performance of the agency. Among the things that can be highlighted in the report are the strength, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I mean, the SWOT of the agencies. The other things that usually include the report are some recommendations based on the problem or finding diagnosed by the evaluation team. The last slide, next. These are the challenges faced by the evaluation team throughout the evaluation process. Challenges can be from inside or outside the agency. Challenges may come from the leaders, staff, funders, investors, or time-consuming organizational culture itself and others. However, it is very important for the OD practitioners to overcome or minimize the challenges so that the objective of the evaluation can be achieved. That's all from me. Back to you, Chia. Thank you, Doctor, and everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you for attention and sorry for the technical disturbance just now.
No problem at all. I was looking at the groups presenting, and apparently there is another group led by Amira, Ji Yutong, Li Jinglu, and Liu Meng. Is that group presenting? Amira, Ji Yutong?
Yes, Doctor. I guess next week is our turn.
Next week you're going to present on issues, or you're going to present on interventions?
Same topic with this group, Doctor.
Same topic? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I would have thought that the same topic would be on the same day.
Oh, okay.
Because next week we are already moving into trends in organization development. Okay. All right, never mind. Let's see how this works out. You want to present?
Doctor, I'm ready, but I'm not sure my my team members also ready.
Okay.
Can we go to next week, Doctor?
Let me know before the end of the week. Then we'll
Okay,
decide on
Doctor.
what to do. Because the next week we're supposed to have Azrael Maziling, Wang Haochia, and also Ashraf presenting. Right?
Okay, Doctor.
Yeah.
And we also have another group, Nasrin Yang Chao and Wang Hanwen. So let's see how it's going to work out. I would have, let's see. Okay, we'll present group week 12 first, trends and organization development. And then we'll see how Amira's group fares later on. All right, let me know. So next week, there'll be two groups presenting. Azrael's group and also Nasrin's group. Nasrin, are you around?
Yes, Doctor.
All right. So
Doctor, who will be presenting first next week?
you work it out among yourself. But for Amira, I think we'll come back to you the week after next week.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you very much.
All right. So just prepare your presentation and then we'll work that out. Okay then. Any questions? Interventions is a very interesting and a very important part of organization development, because this is when the consultant employs or implements the change process after diagnosis and determining the problems within the organization. The consultant or change agent will then decide what needs to be done, all right? And what needs to be done is usually the change process in itself. And if you look at the three change processes, unfreezing, moving, and also freezing. The intervention part will be the moving part, where you actually institute change into the organization. And there are very many ways of doing that and techniques that have been employed over the years, right? And let me just send you through the phone some of the more popular intervention techniques. Let's see. Okay, I've just sent you an article that that indicates the 9 top intervention strategies or OD interventions techniques that are used throughout the world. So if you look at your phones, you'll be able to get it soon. And if you look at all those 9 techniques, one of the important things that you will notice that most would involve relationships among members within the organization, right? Why is that? Simply because what an organization is, right? An organization comprises members who are interdependent of each other, right? They have to work together. And in order for them to work together, they have to interact with each other. And to interact with each other, it is important for them to be able to understand each other. There was a question, sorry. Anyone?
Prof. Assalamualaikum,
Yes.
Prof.
Yeah, Lokman.
Okay, one question, please. From your article, seeing that team building is actually a method of organization development. So
Yes.
nowadays, compared to I think 10 years or 15 years ago, there's a lot of team building operator moving around,
Yeah.
presenting a new we call method from East and also from Western.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays it quite silent. I don't know whether even though in the government department also before the a lot of allocation being allocated for this team building process, but nowadays are quite slow. Whether they change the method of team building to be in smaller scale or it's another way to have team building maybe like virtual or something else.
Well, that's interesting. Since you mentioned it, I've also noticed that we've had very few team building exercises over the past years. I think when I first came back from my PhD, I went through at least 4 team building exercises, and most of them were outdoors. So. In fact, all of them were outdoors. We either go to the sea or go into the jungle. I think those 2 are the more popular places, either jungles or the sea. And yes, I think lately there has been not much team building exercises, and there has been much more techniques set, for example, leadership development. And I don't know, in Malaysia, we have not had, at least I've not seen anyone doing sensitivity training or laboratory training. I've attended one in the States, but not in Malaysia. Anyone went through a sensitivity training or laboratory training? No?
What is sensitivity training, Doctor?
Sensitivity training, in fact, is one of the earliest OD interventions, right? And the whole idea of sensitivity training, as the name goes by, is to allow for organization members to understand each other better. That's the whole idea. So that they can dispose of their prejudices, they can dispose of assumptions that are not workable in organization. And the whole idea is for them to understand each other better, and also to solve any conflict or existing conflicts among members, right? It's actually very interesting in the sense that you will need a certified facilitator for sensitivity training. And the facilitator actually doesn't do much except to control the interaction of members during the training itself. So the one that I attended, we actually sat around in a sort of a circle, right? So we sat around in a circle with members from various parts of the department within the organization, right? So it could be members from different parts of the organization, or it could be just members within one unit or one department of the organization. So the first thing is that we just sat around in a circle, and usually the facilitator will be there, and the facilitator in the beginning would not do anything. He or she would just sit among the members in the circle and say nothing and do nothing, right? So just imagine yourself, all of you from the same department or from the same organization, from different department, sitting in a circle and not doing anything. What happens after a while?
Awkward.
Yes, of course you will feel very awkward, because what we are used to is that the facilitator would usually take charge, right? And the facilitator would commence training, for example. But in this case, the facilitator just sits and do nothing. So when the facilitator does nothing, members begin to feel uncomfortable and awkward. And after a while, maybe one person would get up and try to leave the room, leave the group. And this is when the facilitator will say, no, wait, please do not move, just stay where you are, all right? And then after a while, you will notice that people will try to talk to their neighbors. And of course, the facilitator will step in again and prevent people from talking to each other, simply saying that if you have to speak, you address to the group. That means you are not allowed to communicate or interact personally with anyone, but if you need to interact, then you put your questions or whatever opinion you may have to the group, right? So you may not talk personally or interact personally with another group member, but anytime you wish to address the group, you have to address everybody. Now, if you imagine yourself in such a situation, what could be next?
It sounded so stressful course.
We could do this probably, but you know, it's much more.
I've never heard of that such course before.
Yeah, much more effective, I think, physically. When you are in a room and there's nothing else that you can do,
Maybe,
right? Yeah, we could do on Zoom, but then Zoom, nobody bothers, right? People will just leave, and then I cannot see what other people do. But physically, when you are there, when you cannot do anything else, soon enough, right? Members will begin to address each other, right? What happens is that they are actually making their sentiments, making their opinions much more public, right? Where everyone can witness and also can observe what is being said or what is being interacted. So, for example, right, I have some difficulties working with someone in the group. For example, I may have difficulty working with Lokman, for example, right? So I say, Man, I've seen you around many times, but I don't think I understand what your thoughts are and what you do. I don't understand your behavior. You seem to be aloof. You don't interact with other people. Why is that? You see? So what happens now is that something that is hidden all this while is much more exposed. What I have done is that I have exposed my own sentiments to the group and to the person, the object that I am referring to, right? And then after a while,
Is it
right?
related to psychological?
It is in a way, yes, yes. It gets people to talk and address issues that are not evident as of now, right? And then someone may say, Ken, I don't like you. I don't like the way you look. I don't like the way you dress. I don't like the way you act. Right? Now, that is a very strong statement. And after a while, those things will begin to happen. Right? But you must remember, those things are probably not correct. Yen could, after all, be a very nice person. It could be just some prejudice. Right? I think we ourselves have, I think, felt that we are not comfortable with someone, although we may not know that person, simply because the way that person talks, simply because the way that person moves or walks, right? But it may not be true. That person may be not what you think he or she is, right? Someone who doesn't talk a lot, for example, we may think that he is arrogant, or he may be stuck up, or we may think that he is shy, right? Or she thinks too much of herself, that she thinks she's the best and other people are not worthy of her attention or his attention, right? But you see, those are just prejudices which may not be correct. What sensitivity training allows is that for people to interact much more freely and much more openly with each other. So much so that all those hidden anxieties, all those hidden thoughts that may not be correct are put out in the open and addressed as an issue, right? So Lokman may say, no, actually, I'm not that way. It's just that I don't know how to start a conversation. Now that you are saying that, thank you. At least I know how you feel, and let's start to be much more friendlier towards each other, for example, right? So now, instead of having prejudices that prevents people from interacting, from working together just because they don't know each other well enough, now they begin to open up their communication channels. And that is the whole idea of sensitivity. It is actually one of the earliest group, I suppose, interventions. They call it the T group. I think if you look, you may refer Google up T as in the letter T group, right? And also sensitivity training, laboratory training. Those are actually one of the beginning organizational intervention techniques that are being used by organizations. All right. So if you look at those nine techniques that just forwarded you will notice that most of them would address issues of interrelationship. In fact, that's what organizations are all about, so that people can interact with each other better, so that they are more effective at working together. Okay? Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Betul. One question.
Yes.
How about NLP?
The neuro-linguistic programming.
Program. Is
Yes.
that kind of intervention as well?
It is. It is. In fact, where I work at IPSAS, we have an NLP certified facilitator in Dr. Hanina, right? I also have had the opportunity to attend one of the earliest NLP program. In that time was already what that time was in the late 80s. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in 87.
More yo.
Sorry, but that's how long I've been working, or how old I am. Way back in the 80s, when I first started working at UPM, I saw this advertisement in the newspaper that advertised for neuro-linguistic programming. So it was quite expensive at that time, 3,600 ringgit. But at that time, somehow I approached my boss, the director at that time, Professor Rahim Sail. Right? So I approached him and showed him, hey, can I attend this? He looked at it and he was quite reserved in the beginning. But in the end, he said, okay, you go and see what you can get out of it. Right? So it was interesting in the sense that neuro-linguistic programming, right? The one I attended, we went to Fraser's Hill, and they had several things, and I think the main central theme of neuro-linguistic programming is that words or languages can determine how you feel and how you behave. So one of the activities that they did was actually they had participants lie down on chairs. So 3 chairs, one supporting your legs, one supporting your back near the waist, and one supporting your shoulder. So in the beginning, you are actually sitting, you are actually lying down on 3 chairs, right? And then they would have a recording that plays, and you have to actually internalize. You have to actually internalize what is being said in the recording. And part of it was, imagine that you have a steel rod from your shoulder right down to your legs. And that steel rod is making you very stable and very it's strong. It's supporting you. And if you internalize it well enough, then after a while they would pull out the chair in the middle that supports your back, your lower back, right? And surprisingly enough, I actually was able to lie straight, even without the chair in the middle. But that wasn't the final part. They then asked someone to actually sit on your stomach, right? Just to show that you are actually being supported because you imagine there is a strong steel rod that is supporting you. And yes, when somebody sat on your stomach, you did not feel any tension.
You're being hypnotized, doctor.
Huh?
You're being hypnotized.
What's that?
You're being hypnotized, bro.
Probably not just hypnotized, but the words actually convinced you that you are strong enough.
Yeah,
right?
some of the motivators also did the same, approach.
Yes. In
like
fact, words.
Anthony Robbins and whatnot.
So that's what it is. But in the end, they actually asked someone to stand on my stomach. And yes, I was strong enough. I did not feel anything. But no, I actually supported that person standing on my stomach. But you see, the other thing is that those are the things that slowly are being programmed. That's why it's called neuro-linguistic programming. You are actually being programmed by words, and the words are in itself going into your nerves, that neuro part of your brain, strong enough to make you think that yes, that is true, right? So in everyday practice, right, they actually ask you to use much more positive words rather than very, I think, dodgy or very doubtful words. For example, what we would normally say if given a task, we would say, yes, I will try to do it.
Maybe.
Right? I'll try. That's normal to say, I will try. But the word try in itself is actually weakening your determination in achieving. So don't use the word try. Instead of saying, I will try and complete it, you just say, I will complete it. So that's the difference. And those are the neuro-linguistic words that are being used so that you actually begin to believe in yourself. You actually strengthen your resolve to be able to accomplish things just because the words you are using are actually stronger words that drives you towards your goals, right? And apart from that, they have ways to, for example, the food that you take, you observe some diet that actually cleanses and detoxifies your body and so on. But the main thing is that the words that you use have to be positive and not weak words that will in the end weaken your ability to complete the task. Okay? So if you are interested in neuro-linguistic programming, go to IPSAS and see Dr. Hanina. Right? She is a certified neuro-linguistic coach in that sense. It's interesting. Any other thoughts?
Doctor,
Yes.
I have a question. Just now, Zhisheng said that, in his slide, said that every organization should have, internal OD practitioner.
Maybe change agents.
A change agent.
Yeah.
In real world, is there such agent or such OD practitioner? Because
definitely.
I only see internal audit, which most of them are not effective.
Oh well.
They were supposed to advise, but somehow they were the one who giving the tips how to run away from the Auditor General.
Okay, true. But in
the
end,
that's so obvious. So I don't think there's any OD agents.
You don't think there's any change agent? There are, right?
But somehow, even though he or she is
if your boss tells you to do something, would you do it?
Yes, we
will.
Yes,
definitely, right? Now, what has the boss been able to do? The boss has been able to change. Isn't that a change agent?
Oh
yes.
That's what you call OD.
Definitely.
Okay.
In fact, in most organizations, there are people who are in charge of actually bringing about changes. It may not be big changes, right?
Because normally the one who wants to be the change agent will be changed to other department.
Well, the other thing that you might notice is that in most organizations, there are committees that are entrusted to look into problems within the organization, right? So those committees usually try to come up with a solution. And coming up with a solution is actually a change in itself. Yes, it may not be organization-wide, but the impact is usually at the organization level. It may have a much more systemic effect on the whole organization. And for most organizations, these committees or task forces are actually the change agent. Now look at, for example, the COVID task force, MKN for this matter. MKN is actually the national change agent. Have they been able to change a lot? Definitely. One, they have been able to reduce the effect of COVID-19, right? They have changed the way that we live our life because they have come up with programs to actually address the spread of the disease. That in itself is a change agent at the national level. And of course, there are lots of transformation changes. I think the government, civil servants are familiar with all sorts of transformation changes, right? We have, for example, the transformation in civil service. We have, for example, last time, transformation that happened in the immigration department, for example, in the issuance of passports. Now that did not come from an external change agent. That came from inside and within the organization, right? So there are external change agents and there are internal change agents that are working in organizations. So if you take a look much more deeply, you will be able to identify these people.
Meaning to say, the change agent not necessarily from the HR department, right?
Not necessarily. It can be
anyone. Or it should be.
Well, not necessarily. HR in itself will look at people in terms of the people as the resource, right? To look into, for example, employee matters, to look into the requirements and tasks. But there are, for example, last time we had Mampu, I believe. Mampu looked into the computerization aspects of the public service, right? Anything about dealing with computerization will have to go through Mampu. And Mampu is actually the change agents in terms of changing or putting computers into the civil service. What else? Well, we had change agents, for example, when you wanted to move from Kuala Lumpur to Putrajaya. There is actually a committee that looks specifically into that move from Kuala Lumpur to Putrajaya. Now that in itself is also an example of a change agent because they are looking at change in the sense of this, in this sense, a change in location. Yes, there are change agents. And I think you can come up with many other examples of internal change agents. Right?
Okay.
Because I think when we talk about change, when we talk about consultants, we are much more familiar with those external consultants, right? Especially those Mat Saleh, those Western change agents that come into, consultants that come into our organizations. But
yes,
internally, we are no less doing changes.
Yeah.
Prof. Ibrahim here.
Yes, Ibrahim.
Okay, Prof. I have a question regarding a term of transformation. And also, once upon a time, we have heard regarding the term of reformasi or reformation. So can you please...
you're not going to politics, are you?
Give some comment regarding this No. I'm not going to politics, but we are looking for intervention. So currently we heard so much about transformation. But I do believe one of the master or this group of politicians saying reformasi or reformation. So how this kind of intervention could be different from the transformation method? That is my question. Yeah.
The technique is different in the sense that it actually forces the masses to act. And that is what reformasi is all about, because they are dissatisfied. And this is much more of a civil change, where I suppose the masses begin to demand for change within the national institutions. Yes, it is. Although I have my own reservations about that type of change, because it creates a lot of, I suppose, tension, and creates a lot of, I suppose, sensitivity that is being used until today, right? And politicians are, well, they are actually big movers. And if we look at what is happening in the US right now, yes, you can see that there is possibly an attempt at transforming the, I suppose, transforming the system within the country in itself. It is the same, right? Using mass dissatisfaction. And the thing about this is that when you have the masses out, then it is much more difficult to control, because there will be many elements that are involved or participate. And some of those elements are much more radical. So in the end, you may find some difficulty in controlling the change part, in controlling the move part, because there might be other people who eventually take over the change process, and you might not be able to come up with what you actually started with. So if you were to ask me personally what I would think of mass movement, I would say that it may work, but more often than not, the side effects are not what you would intend it to be so. Now that's my idea. And you can see, in fact, you can do studies on this, right? The effect of mass rallies, for example. And in the end, you would create probably many more factions rather than a much more unifying faction that works towards change. So in organization, that would not be something that is desirable. Any other thoughts? It's good.
Prof,
yes.
Back to my question again. So if let's say this mass intervention is not as what we desire, or this is not the best option, so what do you think about some organization we do have union, kesatuan? So this kind of union and kesatuan, they are attacking, or they are persuading the stakeholders or the top management to be on their side, to give whatever they want. So what do you think about this union or kesatuan in our organization?
For example, the labor union, right? Well, labor union are something that is quite normal whenever there are organizations, because people begin to form their own groups that fight for their rights, especially when there are groups that are powerful and groups that are, you know, being put it in inverted commas, that are being exploited, right? And this is in fact normal in any capitalist society. In fact, they are also normal in any socialist society. And this is always the issue of power. And I would always look into any interaction involving two parties from a power perspective, right? So there is one group with power because they are actually the employees, the employers. They are the one that is actually paying the salaries of those workers. And they have certain expectations and certain requirements for their, I suppose, for their investment. And of course, there is another group that are working for the powerful, right? And as such, most times there is usually what you would call a power imbalance. And when a power imbalance happens, then it's either the employers will begin to oppress the employees. And when that happens, then the employees will begin to unionize and form their own group in order to neutralize the power of the employers. I think that's always the issue of the labor unions, right? Where you have two different groups trying to gain, or at least trying to use that power relationship so that they get their own benefits, right? Because after all, if you look at power, what is the purpose of power? Power is to be able to influence the action of the other. And how do you get power? One, of course, the powerful are usually those who are wealthy. They can influence the action of those under them, right? So power relationship is always an interesting tool in looking at any phenomenon. If you look at the US, what is happening now, it is an issue of power relationship. Think about that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gideon.
All right, I think that's something that you can further look into, right? If you're interested in that, then look into power relationships. All right, then, if there's nothing else, I think it is already Maghrib right now. Thank you very much, Zisheng and your group, Kalai and Shabila.
Thank you, Doctor and friends, for your attention.
Has been group. So next week, we will listen first to trends and issues and trends in organization development. So Azrael, Maziling, Weng Hao Chia, and Muhammad Ashraf, that will be the first group. And I think we have a second group of Nasrin, Yang Chao, Wang Hanwen. Am I correct? Or do we have just one?
Correct, Doctor.
Right? But please, the groups report to me through this WhatsApp, and we can work that out. And later on, we will have Amira's group, I think the week after, to present. I would also urge you to think about your own assignments, right? And consider whether you want to present whatever you have done. It will be as in basis, right? So you present wherever you are in terms of the progress of your assignment. Don't worry, the whole idea is for us to see whether we are moving in the right direction. Okay?
Doctor.
Yes.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Just to re-clarify, our group assignment, the one that you mentioned, we have an option whether to,
Yes,
to do
yes.
it in group or individually, right?
Definitely.
How about the I mean the question or the title is remaining the same, or
It remains the same, but then I would consider the scope to be lesser if you are doing individual assignments. Right?
okay.
So you do not have
Okay,
to
now.
be have a very big scope. You may just look at one unit or one team for that matter.
Okay.
I know there are still some groups that are working, and I think most would be working individually. Also, I think just report to me whether you're working individually or as a group. Ibrahim, can you help that out if you don't mind? Just get people to report to you who
Okay, noted.
is working individually and who are those working as a group. Okay? All right then.
Okay.
I'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Have
Prof.
a good night. Have a good dinner and sleep well.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Alright,
Sorry.
bye.
Prof, selamat Hari Raya, Prof.
Oh, selamat Raya, maaf Zabatin. Oh yeah, that is we are first time meeting after Raya.
Duit raya, Doktor.
Okay. Orang pencen tak payah bagi duit raya. Dia terima je.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Kenyan, thank you. Mana? Thanks, Zisheng, for the group presentation.
Thank you, Prof. Bye.
Bye.
Doktor minta maaf, salah faham. Ingat ke
Apa?
minggu depan?
So tak apa, next week tunggu dulu biar group to
Okay.
present and then the week after.
Okay, Doktor. 17 hari bulan lah saya tengok ni.
Yeah.
Okay, Doktor. Thank you very much.
You're
Sorry.
welcome. No
Selamat
problem.
Raya, maaf lahir batin.
Sama-sama. Okay, I'm going to end. Bye.